Some of y'all talk too much. Yeah, I said it. You keep explaining yourself to people who already decided they don't understand you. You keep announcing your next move to folks who secretly hope you never make it. And then you wonder why you're drained, distracted, and delayed. Listen, everything doesn't need a response. Everything doesn't deserve your energy. And everybody is not assigned to your future this season. It's not about proving, it's about producing. It's not about being seen, it's about being solid. Sometimes the real glow up happens in silence. Sometimes the breakthrough comes when you stop broadcasting and start building. So today, I need you to lock in, tune out the noise, and hear me clearly. Focus on YO and learn the power of staying silent. Protecting your focus is not just a good idea, it's survival. In a world that profits off your distraction, every notification, every opinion, every unnecessary conversation is competing for one thing: your attention. And what you give your attention to, you give your life to. That's why you can't afford to be careless with your focus. You don't have unlimited energy. You don't have unlimited time. So if you're going to become everything you were created to be, you have to get intentional about what you allow into your mental space. Some of you are not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too much of what doesn't matter. You're stretched thin, not from purpose, but from pointless distractions. You're responding to texts that don't deserve replies, entertaining conversations that don't add value, and giving front row seats to people who should have been left in the lobby of your life. And the truth is, every time you say yes to something that doesn't align, you're saying no to something that does. Focus requires sacrifice, and if you're not willing to let some things go, you'll never grab hold of what's meant for you. You've got to understand that focus is a discipline. It doesn't just happen because you want it. It happens because you train yourself to stay locked in. That means waking up with intention. That means having a clear vision of what matters most. Because if you don't define your priorities, life will define them for you. And life has a way of filling your schedule with everything except what's actually important. So now you're busy but not productive, moving but not progressing, active but not advancing. And that's the danger, mistaking motion for momentum. There are people watching you who benefit from your lack of focus. They don't want you locked in because your discipline exposes their complacency. So they'll invite you into distractions disguised as opportunities. They'll pull you into drama disguised as concern. They'll waste your time, then laugh when you fall behind. That's why you can't just be nice, you have to be discerning. Everybody smiling in your face is not assigned to your destiny. And if they can't respect your focus, they don't deserve your presence. Focus also means learning how to say no without guilt. And that's hard for some of you because you've been conditioned to please people. You think saying no makes you selfish, but sometimes saying no is the most responsible thing you can do, because every yes comes with a cost. Every commitment requires energy. And if you keep pouring into everything and everyone, eventually you'll run dry. You can't give your best to your purpose if you're constantly giving pieces of yourself away to things that don't matter. Let's be real, focus will isolate you. It will require you to step back from certain environments, certain habits, and even certain relationships, and that can feel lonely. But don't confuse isolation with punishment. It's preparation. Sometimes God pulls you away from the noise so you can hear him clearly. Sometimes he removes the crowd so you can discover who you really are without all the opinions, expectations, and pressure. And in that quiet space, that's where clarity is born. That's where vision sharpens. That's where purpose gets stronger. You also have to guard your focus from internal distractions. It's not always people. It's your own thoughts, doubt, fear, insecurity, overthinking. Those things can pull you off track just as quickly as anything external. You start questioning yourself. You start comparing your journey to somebody else's highlight reel. You start wondering if you're good enough, if you're ready, if you even have what it takes. And before you know it, you've talked yourself out of the very thing you prayed for. That's why your mindset matters. Because if you can't control your thoughts will control your focus. Focus requires consistency. It's not about being locked in one day and distracted the next. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing the work when nobody's watching, when nobody's clapping, when nobody's posting about you, because real growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows. It happens in the discipline of daily decisions. It happens when you choose purpose over comfort, vision over vibes, and long-term success over short-term satisfaction. And let's talk about patience, because protecting your focus also means trusting the process. Everything doesn't happen overnight. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean nothing is happening. Seeds take time to grow. And if you keep digging them up to check on them, you'll never see the harvest. Some of you are so quick to switch directions because you don't see progress fast enough. But focus says, I'm staying right here until I see this through. Focus says, I'm committed even when it's slow. Focus says, I trust that what I'm building will be worth the wait. You've got to remind yourself why you started. Because when distractions come, and you need something stronger than your feelings to keep you grounded. Your purpose has to be bigger than your excuses. Your vision has to be louder than the noise around you. And when you get clear on that, it becomes easier to stay focused. Not because distractions disappear, but because they lose their power over you. At the end of the day, nobody can protect your focus for you. Not your friends, not your family, not your environment. It's your responsibility. And if you take it seriously, if you truly commit to guarding your attention, your energy, and your time, you'll start to see a shift. You'll get more done. You'll feel more aligned. You'll move with more clarity and confidence. Because when your focus is protected, your purpose has room to grow. Silence is not a sign that you have nothing to say. It's a sign that you understand timing. In a world where everybody feels the need to comment, respond, defend, and explain, choosing silence is a powerful act of discipline. It means you are no longer reacting to everything that comes your way. It means you've grown past the need to prove yourself to people who were never qualified to validate you in the first place. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom under control. It's the ability to hold back when your emotions are pushing you to speak, to respond, or to react without thinking. Some of you have lost opportunities, peace, and progress simply because you couldn't stay quiet. You spoke too quickly, you explained too much, you defended yourself in spaces where your presence alone should have been enough. And in doing so, you gave energy to situations that didn't deserve it. Silence teaches you that not every battle requires your voice. Not every accusation deserves your attention. Not every misunderstanding needs your correction. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. When you learn the power of silence, you begin to understand that everything doesn't need your input. People will misunderstand you. They will misjudge you. They will talk about you without knowing your full story. And if you try to correct every misconception, you'll spend your entire life chasing approval that will never fully come. Silence frees you from that cycle. It allows you to stand firm in who you are without needing to convince everyone else. Because the truth is, the right people won't need an explanation, and the wrong people won't accept one. Silence also protects your progress. There are certain things God is doing in your life that are not meant to be broadcast before time. Not everyone deserves access to your process. When you talk too much about what you're building, you expose it to unnecessary opinions and even opposition. Some people will discourage you without realizing it. Others will try to compete with you. And some will simply misunderstand what you're doing and project their limitations onto your vision. Silence keeps your plans covered until they are strong enough to stand on their own. There is also power in silence when it comes to your emotional health. Constantly expressing every thought, every frustration, and every detail of your life can leave you drained. Not every feeling needs to be voiced immediately. Not every moment requires a reaction. Sometimes you need to sit with your thoughts, process them, and gain clarity before you speak. Silence gives you that space. It allows you to think clearly without the pressure of immediate response. It helps you respond with intention instead of reacting out of impulse. You have to recognize that silence is a form of control. When you are silent, you are not being controlled by the opinions of others. You are not being pulled into every argument or distracted by every comment. You are choosing where to place your energy. And that kind of control is rare. Most people are reactive. They respond to everything, engage in everything, and get involved in things that have nothing to do with their purpose. But when you operate in silence, you move with precision. You observe more than you speak. You listen more than you react. And in doing so, you gain insight that others miss because they are too busy talking. Silence also reveals maturity. It shows that you don't need to argue to feel right. It shows that your confidence is not dependent on winning every conversation. There is a level of growth where you realize that being right is not always worth the energy it takes to prove it. Sometimes walking away in silence is the strongest move you can make. It shows restraint. It shows discipline. It shows that you are secure enough in yourself that you don't need external validation to feel validated. And let's be honest, there are moments when silence is strategic. In environments where people are waiting for you to slip up, staying quiet keeps you protected. In situations where your words could be used against you, silence keeps you covered. In seasons where observation is more valuable than participation, silence gives you the advantage. You begin to see things others miss. You begin to understand dynamics that are hidden to those who are constantly speaking. And that awareness becomes a strength that guides your decisions. Silence also deepens your relationship with purpose. When you stop filling every moment with noise, you create space for clarity. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to recognize what truly matters and what doesn't. And in that clarity, distractions lose their grip. You are no longer pulled in every direction because you are anchored in something deeper. Silence helps you reconnect with that inner voice, that sense of direction that often gets drowned out by the noise of everyday life. But silence is not just about what you don't say, it's about what you do instead. When you choose silence, you redirect your energy into action. Instead of explaining your dreams, you build them. Instead of defending your ideas, you execute them. Instead of talking about your growth, you show it through your results. Silence shifts the focus from words to work. And at the end of the day, your progress will speak louder than anything you could have said. There will always be pressure to speak, to respond, and to react. People will test you. Situations will challenge you. Emotions will try to push you into saying something in the heat of the moment. But if you can master the discipline of silence, you gain an edge that many people never develop. You become harder to provoke. harder to distract, harder to manipulate because you are no longer led by impulse, you are led by intention. So understand this clearly: silence is not you being passive, and it's not you being weak. It is you being intentional. It is you choosing wisdom over noise, discipline over reaction, and purpose over pride. When you learn how to stay silent in moments where others would speak, you position yourself for growth, clarity, and elevation. And sometimes the loudest statement you can make is simply this: you don't have to say anything at all. Not everyone deserves access to your process, and the sooner you understand that, the more protected your life becomes. Access is not something you give away casually, it's something you guard intentionally. Because when people have access to your process, they have insight into your patterns, your progress, your weaknesses, and your direction. And not everybody in your circle is rooting for your elevation, even if they smile in your face while they're around you. Some people are present out of convenience, not commitment. Some are watching your journey not to celebrate it, but to measure themselves against it, and others are simply around long enough to gather information they were never meant to have. When you give the wrong people access, you expose more than you realize. You reveal your plans before they are fully developed. You share your ideas before they are fully protected. You talk about your goals before they are fully secured. And in doing so, you open the door for doubt, criticism, comparison, and sometimes even interference. Not everyone can handle what God is doing in your life. Some people will discourage you without meaning to, simply because they cannot see what you see. Others may intentionally downplay your vision because it threatens their comfort or exposes their lack of growth. That's why discernment is necessary. You have to be able to recognize who is safe to share with and who is not. Access is earned over time, not given based on familiarity. Just because someone knows your name doesn't mean they should know your plans. Just because someone has been around you doesn't mean they are assigned to your future. Proximity does not equal permission. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing closeness with trust. Trust is built through consistency, loyalty, character, and alignment. Without those qualities, closeness alone is not enough to grant someone entry into the deeper areas of your life. You have to learn how to maintain boundaries without feeling guilty about it. Protecting your process is not being secretive, it's being wise. There are stages in your journey where silence and privacy are necessary for growth. Early in the process, things are fragile. Your ideas are still forming, your habits are still developing, and your mindset is still being shaped. During that stage, too much external input can distort your direction. Too many opinions can create confusion. Too much visibility can create pressure that you're not ready to carry. That's why not everything needs to be shared in real time. Some things are meant to be built quietly until they are strong enough to withstand outside scrutiny. When you allow too many voices into your process, you risk losing clarity. Every person has their own perspective, their own experiences, and their own limitations. And when they project those onto your vision, it can shift your focus away from what you were originally called to do. Suddenly, you're adjusting your plans to fit opinions instead of staying aligned with purpose. You start second guessing yourself. You start modifying your direction to gain approval. And in the process, you dilute the very thing that made your vision unique in the first place. Not everyone is equipped to understand your process because not everyone is meant to walk your path. Your journey is personal. Your timing is specific. Your growth is individual. And what works for someone else may not work for you. That's why comparison is dangerous. When you compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, you create unnecessary pressure on yourself. You begin to feel behind, inadequate, or out of place. But in reality, you are simply on a different timeline with a different assignment. Protecting your process means staying focused on your lane without constantly looking over at someone else's. There is also wisdom in understanding that access comes with responsibility. The more people know about your life, the more opinions they will form about it. And those opinions can either support your growth or disrupt your peace. When too many people feel entitled to your process, you may find yourself managing expectations instead of managing progress. You begin to feel the need to explain your every move, justify your decisions, and update people who are not even contributing to your journey. That kind of pressure can slow you down and pull your energy away from what actually matters. Protecting your process allows you to move at the pace that is right for you. It gives you the freedom to grow without unnecessary interference. It creates an environment where you can make mistakes, learn, adjust, and improve without being under constant observation. Growth requires space. Development requires time, and when your process is constantly exposed, that space becomes limited. But when you guard your access points, you create room for authentic progress without external pressure shaping your decisions. You also have to be aware that some people will try to position themselves close to you specifically to gain access to what you carry. They are interested in your ideas, your connections, your opportunities, or your influence. But interest alone is not enough to qualify someone for access. You have to look at their motives, their consistency, and their actions over time. Are they supportive when nothing is being offered in return? Are they present when there is nothing to gain? Or are they only around when there is something to benefit from? Those questions help you determine who truly belongs in your inner circle. At the end of the day, protecting your process is about stewardship. You are responsible for what you've been given, and that includes your vision, your growth, your opportunities, and your energy. If you give access too freely, you risk mismanaging what was entrusted to you. But when you are intentional about who you allow into your space, you create a protected environment where your purpose can develop without unnecessary disruption. You don't owe everyone access to your life. You owe yourself the discipline to guard it wisely. And when you do, you'll notice that your clarity improves, your focus sharpens, and your progress becomes more stable because you are no longer leaking energy into spaces that were never meant to hold it. Not everyone deserves access to your process, and learning that truth will save you from a lot of unnecessary setbacks, confusion, and disappointment. Access is not just about people knowing what you're doing. It's about people having proximity to how you think, how you move, how you plan, and how you grow. When you give someone access to your process, you are essentially giving them insight into your private world. And the reality is everyone who has access does not have alignment. Some people are close to you physically, but far from you in purpose. Some are around you out of convenience, habit, or curiosity, not because they are committed to your elevation or genuinely invested in your growth. The danger of giving the wrong people access is not always immediate, it's subtle. It shows up in the form of misplaced opinions, unnecessary suggestions, quiet discouragement, and sometimes even unintentional interference. People will speak into your process without understanding the full picture. They will question decisions that are still in development. They will offer advice that reflects their limitations, not your potential. And if you're not careful, you'll start reshaping your vision to fit their comfort level instead of staying true to what you were originally called to build. That's how clarity gets lost. Too many voices, too many influences, and too much exposure too soon. Not everyone is qualified to handle what God is doing in your life. Some people don't have the capacity to understand your timing, your strategy, or your direction. And because they cannot fully comprehend it, they may unintentionally discourage it. Others may project their own fears, insecurities, or past experiences onto your journey. So when they say, that's too risky or that won't work, they're not always speaking from truth, they're speaking from limitation. If you allow those voices to carry too much weight, you'll begin to second guess yourself, hesitate on decisions, and lose momentum in areas where you were meant to move forward with confidence. Access should be earned through consistency, character, and trust over time. It's not something you grant simply because someone is familiar or present. Familiarity can create a false sense of trust. Just because someone has been around doesn't mean they are aligned with where you're going. Just because someone knows parts of your story doesn't mean they are equipped to be part of your future. You have to learn how to evaluate people not just by their words, but by their patterns. Are they consistent? Do they show up when it's inconvenient? Do they support you without expecting anything in return? Or are they only present when there is something to gain from your proximity? When people have access to your process too early or too freely, it can create unnecessary pressure. You may begin to feel obligated to explain your decisions, justify your progress, or keep others updated on things that are still unfolding. That kind of pressure can shift your focus from building to managing expectations. Instead of moving at the pace that is right for your growth, you start adjusting your steps to accommodate people who were never assigned to carry the weight of your vision. And in doing so, you risk slowing down your own development just to maintain external comfort. Protecting your process also means protecting your energy. Not every conversation deserves your attention, and not every person deserves your transparency. Some discussions will drain you rather than build you. Some environments will distract you rather than develop you. And some people, even without malicious intent, will take more from you than they give back. When you give too much access, you may find yourself constantly pouring out explanations, ideas, and emotions, leaving you depleted and less focused on what actually matters. Boundaries are not meant to isolate you, they are meant to preserve you. There is also a level of spiritual and mental discipline required to guard your process, because not everything you're working on is ready to be seen, and not every idea is ready to be shared. Some things need time to mature before they are exposed to outside opinions. When you reveal too much too soon, you open yourself up to unnecessary criticism that can distort your confidence. But when you allow your process to develop quietly, you give yourself the opportunity to refine your ideas, strengthen your foundation, and build something that can stand on its own without being easily shaken by external voices. Another important aspect of limiting access is understanding that privacy creates clarity. When fewer voices are involved, it becomes easier to hear your own thoughts, recognize your own direction, and stay aligned with your purpose. Too many influences can create confusion, but a controlled environment allows you to focus, reflect, and make decisions with confidence. You begin to rely more on discernment than on external validation. And that shift is critical if you want to grow with intention rather than being pulled in multiple directions by outside opinions. You must also accept that protecting your process may require you to adjust your circle. Not everyone who started with you is meant to continue with you. Some people were only present for a season, and holding on to them beyond their assignment can create friction in your progress. Letting go of access does not mean you hate them or look down on them. It simply means you recognize that their role in your life has changed. And when you make that adjustment, you create space for the right people, the right conversations, and the right influences to enter your life. At the core of it all, protecting your process is about stewardship and responsibility. You are accountable for what you've been given. And that includes your vision, your time, your energy, and your growth. If you don't guard those things carefully, they can be diluted, distracted, or disrupted by the wrong influences. But when you become intentional about who has access to your life, you create an environment where progress can happen without interference. You move with clarity, you grow with purpose, and you build with stability. In the end, not everyone needs to see everything, not everyone needs to know everything, and not everyone needs to be involved in everything. The more you understand this, the more disciplined you become in how you share, how you connect, and how you protect what matters most. Because when your process is protected, your purpose has the space it needs to develop, mature, and ultimately produce the results you were designed to achieve.